Hey nerds, a lot of people are talking about the positive features from New World that Ashes of Creation can incorporate, such as the Gathering. I thought I'd look at it in a little bit different light and see what mistakes New World and several other MMOs have made and how Ashes can avoid those mistakes. I'm also going to talk about the recent recruitment of major streamers to Ashes and how that could relate to all of this. I want to start by saying this video is not intended to be a negative video towards Ashes of Creation, Asmongold, Steven Sharif, or New World. I just want to point out some potential issues that Ashes could run into. As for my background, I'm an Ashes Alpha 1 backer, and I'm very much a fanboy of Ashes. I've read the wiki extensively, read many forum and Discord posts, watched most of the dev videos and all of the Ashes 101 series from Paradox Gaming. Highly recommend that series, by the way. I definitely feel that I have, at a minimum, an above average understanding of what this game is. I also have an extensive MMO experience. I played WoW from its alpha to Warlords of Draenor pretty heavily, and I've branched off into many other MMOs over the years. Guild Wars 2 is probably my second most played MMO, and I have sunk thousands of hours into other MMOs as well over the years. With that in mind, I believe this game has the potential to save the genre. I know that may sound hyperbolic, but I do think the MMO genre is in a lot of trouble as a whole, and this is the first MMO with a leadership team that is as engaged as Steven's team is and has been. I've never seen an MMO dev be on the stream while a streamer played their game, helping them out, ensuring that they have a good experience. I think this is a brilliant move, and it gives me further confidence that this game can succeed. Now I want to get into the failing of several AAA MMOs and whether I think Ashes could potentially make the same mistakes. More on New World and Asmongold will be towards the end, so please stick around for that. First, I want to talk about Wildstar. Wildstar was a game billed as the next great WoW killer. WoW Killer number 7,290,015. Wildstar was actually a very solid MMO, but unfortunately it suffered from a few groundbreaking issues. One, I think its graphics went way too cartoony. Also, they decided to make the game focused on the hardcore PvE community. 40-man raids just are not the greatest idea an MMO ever came up with. This is why WoW moved away from them. Then they wanted to make the raids uber challenging to appease the 1% of MMO players that are interested in world first achievements. The problem is the game lacked casual PvE content. Will Ashes have the same problems as Wildstar? Possibly. First, I do think it may lack content for the casual players. However, I don't think it will over cater to the hardcore PvE community. In fact, if anything, it may lack in high-end PvE content. It is aiming to have a lot of bosses that require 40-man raids, which I think could be a mistake. It also, I think, has too much open-world PvE raids to appeal to the hardcore PvE community. If these bosses are open world, most of them will just be zerged out. Now, they could opt to scale the bosses like Guild Wars 2 did, but they are currently on record saying they will not do that. Without normalized PvE that has set group sizes and are not in an open world, it is hard for the world first guilds to really stake their claim as the best raid group. A potential solution to this is that they have said 20% of all dungeons will be instanced. Take these 20% of dungeons and make them available on all servers despite what nodes are leveled up, and make them the hardest in-game dungeon. This will give some normalization for the hardcore raiders to be able to compete as they want to. However, currently it is the opposite in Ashes. The current design goal for the 20% of instance content is for it to be for solo and group quests, and the hardest bosses and raids are going to be open world. This makes the hardest boss essentially zergable. Of course, it does encourage PvP as people will be fighting over these respawns. But guess who will win those fights? The Zerg guilds mostly will win those fights. Zerg guilds, in most cases, in my opinion, do not have a lot of skilled players. They just have a lot of players. So this is an environment that the competitive PvE player, I think, will not enjoy. As for appealing to the casual PvE crowd, unfortunately, I'm struggling to see how this game is designed to really facilitate that group either. It is built from the ground up to be very similar to Lineage 2 or an Arcade, both of which did not have mass appeal because they lacked casual content. Next, I'm going to talk about Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 had a massive amount of hype and has not really really lived up to that hype. It's not been a complete failure by any means, but it certainly hasn't made its way into the top 5 MMOs. The main reason I believe that happened is that it did the opposite of Wildstar and went way too casual with its content. No real hardcore in-game PvE at all at launch. Open world PvP was poorly implemented with our World v World system. SPVP was fun and I've played a lot of it, but the lack of game modes and support post-launch has made it lose a ton of players over the years. To me, Ashes will not have any issues with being overly casual. In fact, as I've already said, perhaps it will not have enough casual content. So the Guild Wars 2 failure shouldn't be an issue. Next, I want to talk about all the direct copies of WoW, SWTOR, Rift, etc. These games all copied WoW's formula directly, but in many ways were much less polished versions. Ashes definitely does not have that problem. Next, let's talk about all the MMOs that were imported to the West and largely failed because of pay to win. BDO, Arcade, many others. Will Ashes have this problem? I don't think so, but you could argue that giving early access only to very high tier Kickstarter backers 8 years before the launch of the game is to some extent pay to win. Also, $500 for a true alpha is very excessive and makes you wonder what else they may overcharge for in the future. However, I've not seen any evidence so far of boost gold buying being in this game. What I have seen and read, it seems very unlikely we ever see these things. So I'm pretty confident Ashes will not have the issue of pay to win ruining it. Next, let's talk about the mistakes New World has made. The primary mistake they made is starting out by making New World an extremely niche game with full loot, open world PvP, and heavy sandbox elements, to completely pivoting away from that to a standard theme park MMO and gutting the PvP. First of all, the original game design would have never had mass appeal, so the pivot made perfect sense. But just the fact that they thought that would ever work, which gave a bad first impression, ultimately made them anger their early supporters and then have to go find new supporters, was a very rough start and makes me doubt they have good leadership. Then they pivoted to be a casual friendly MMO, completely gutted PvP, had little to no high-end PvE. They have since added more content, but the game to me still feels very directionless. Seems to be a Guild Wars 2 type of heavily casual game with even less content at release than what Guild Wars 2 had. Could Ashes have similar issues with this? I think this is more possible than many think, and has a lot to do with the influence of Asmongold and other people with a huge following, as we'll get into shortly. Before I talk about Asmongold, I want to say I have no issues with him at all. I'm not an avid Twitch viewer these days. I used to watch a lot more, but I've gotten older, I have more responsibilities, so now I just catch bits of streams here and there. And when I do, I usually watch MMO streamers, and so yes, I do watch some Asmongold on occasion. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. A lot of the criticism is simply people mad at the massive amount of success he has had. But from what I have seen, he is actually a great ambassador for the MMO community. He is very well spoken, intelligent, and in general seems like a nice guy. He is in a tough place where he just wants to play and enjoy games, but at times, his success has made that difficult. While I absolutely do think that the aggressive recruitment of Asmongold into the Ashes community has been a great business move, I do wonder how much Steven could end up altering the game from its original design to appeal to him and similar players. Truth be told, Ashes is not built in any way like WoW is. It is massively different from WoW, and WoW is what Asmon knows when it comes to MMOs. He would likely never have much interest in a game that is similar to an Arcade or a Lineage 2, which frankly is what Ashes is aiming to be, just a more polished version of these games with no pay to win. There are many convenience features from WoW that will not be present in Ashes. One of those is the quest givers not being marked on the map. This is something that I actually very much agree with Asmon on. I do think it makes sense to have quest givers marked on the map, and that is one of the tried and true elements of MMOs that I think there's no reason to get cute about and try to change. There's a reason 99% of MMOs mark their quest givers with the exclamation point above the NPC and on the map. It works. Here's Asmongold talking about that concept on his second stream channel.
The reality is that it was fine the way it was, and you don't need to, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think there's a lot of cases of that in like fantasy where people will try to like reinvent the wheel, and I don't really think that's necessarily a good thing. Did we get the quest though? Yeah, we did. Nice. Does that have Mark's quest givers? No, it doesn't. I wish it did. I don't like not knowing where I'm going, you know, or like not knowing if there's a quest nearby. I'd like to know. It's like I don't know what 2 quick sentences, but like I think the game is good. I like the graphics in the game. I feel like sometimes like after I get out of the initial area for questing, I never really know where to go. Like I kind of just want a mob grind or something like that, because it feels like that's the best option for me. But that's about it.
One of the big features of Ashes is travel times. The map for Ashes is going to be absolutely massive, and travel is an integral part of the design philosophy. With that in mind, listen to what Asmon had to say about that.
OG Classic. I don't like the idea that you have to spend more time getting somewhere than playing the game. Like, to me, I find that I just think that's ridiculous, you know?
For me, this is one area of the game that if changed would have a massive impact on the original intent of the game design. The travel times are intended to be combined with certain resources being scarce in some areas while abundant in others. If you make a lot of fast travel, then this resource scarcity gets negated to some extent, and the caravan systems become less useful. The caravan system as it currently is designed provides for a lot of natural player-driven content. Add more fast travel, and you're massively pivoting this game from its original goals. Now, consider what could happen if Steven takes this feedback and makes a major pivot to the game designed to cater to this viewpoint. So far, Steven has not pivoted much at all on the original intent, but he has been very proactive in trying to make sure Asmon has a good experience in Ashes Alpha. What if that spills over into changing the game design to be a bit more friendly to Asmon and as a result the average WoW player? Could that cause a major rift in the community if that happened? I think so, and this is why I think Steven should absolutely consider feedback from Asmon, but he needs to make sure to not anger his original fans in the process. At the same time, I do think Steven does need to make some changes to appease the casual and the PvE fan base. As for any MMO to truly succeed, I do believe it has to have a solid core of casual PvE oriented players. The challenge is to do that while also keeping close to the original design intention. It may be a challenge to pull that off, but now is the time to make these decisions before the main content of the game is added. I have confidence Intrepid will find the correct balance here, but I think constructive feedback from the players is key to making that happen. Make sure your voice is heard. They do listen to our feedback more so than any developer I think ever has in this space. Many of us want Ashes to succeed, so we need to do our part. Finally, I want to be clear, Steven has not pivoted from the original design in any way yet. It's just something I think is possible given the recent interactions he has had with Asmongold and other streamers. I'm just speculating on what could happen to spur discussion, not what has actually happened. Guys, that's all for this video. Let me know what you think, good or bad. I have thick skin, so if you didn't like something I said, go ahead and say that. It won't hurt my feelings. If you liked something I said, I would appreciate that. I would appreciate a like and subscribe. And with that, peace, nerds.